Welcome back to the Kudlow Report. Governors from around the country are gathering in Washington this weekend for the National Governors Association winter meeting. And top of the agenda, well, how their states are going to deal with the March 1st sequester spending cuts if they kick in. Here now, first on CNBC, is Kansas Republican Governor Sam Brownback. And our panel is still with us, Congressman Gregory Meeks, Mark Simone, and Robert Costa waiting in the wings. Governor Brownback, as always, thank you for coming on. I want to ask you, what is your opinion of the sequester? Let's just start there quickly. What do you think of this thing?
Well, I think there's a better route to go. I think Congress ought to come up with the cuts themselves, but I do think this is a useful tool to force the conversation on how you get the federal budget to balance. We've needed to have this conversation for a decade, and it's about time we start the conversation.
Who's winning the political battle, President Obama or the House Republicans?
You know, frankly, I think we got all losers on this one so far, because it looks like people aren't really talking about it. But the country is ready for us to start doing some stuff. We're seeing it at the state level. I had to make a lot of tough choices, how you make some cuts at the state level to try to create growth and balance budget. I think they're ready for the conversation to have, but I think they want a conversation between both the president and the Congress, and that's what it doesn't feel like. It doesn't look like it's happening.
All right, last one before I bring my panelists in. I want to talk to you. You are being hailed as one of the red state models, you and a number of Republican governors, because of your tax cutting, because of your budget cutting, insofar as reviving the Republican Party. That this is a model the GOP should adopt. Are you going to stay with it? Are you going to try to spread the gospel? Is it possible the Republican Party can ever have a growth message again?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to stay with it. You know, I might remind you, too, you picking Lincoln as the movie. Lincoln once said, if I were to move anywhere, I think I would move to Kansas. So what we're trying to do is create that Lincoln revival, too, with it and get our taxes down. I want to take the income tax to zero and attract people and growth, which is what we need to have happen in Kansas, but it's also what we need to have happen in America. We can do it. This is going to work, and we're going to stick with it.
Governor, let me just ask, the polls recently show that 76% of Americans say that we've got to have a balanced way and to move forward. There has to be cuts and revenue so we can have a balanced budget and go forward creating jobs and opportunities for all Americans. So don't you think that as we focus on in Congress, as opposed to saying no revenue at all and just cuts, we should need to have a balanced approach moving forward to get this thing done?
I agree with a balanced approach, but revenue isn't just raising taxes. Revenue is getting more revenue coming in at the federal level, and that, to me, is more oriented towards growth than it is towards raising your taxes. So if I were still in the Congress, I'd be looking at what are those ways I could cut taxes that would increase the revenue at the federal level the most. And you got a couple examples in the past where Kennedy has cut taxes for creating growth, and I would really look at methods that you could because that hits your theme of both of them, and really both parties ought to be engaged in
Would
that.
closing loopholes be part of revenues?
If you can do that and lower your rates at the same time. That's what I proposed in Kansas, was basically a flat tax with a small business accelerator where we took all taxes off of LLC and sub-S income. That's primarily how small businesses are organized, because we want small business to come into Kansas and to grow. And so far, we're already seeing a record number of small business filings in our state, and the tax policy just went into place.
Hey, Governor Brownback, Bob Costa here. You've served in the United States Senate. Now you're a leader in Kansas as governor. But you know how mired the Republican Party has become in these budget fights, talking about austerity. How does the Republican Party get back to a growth message? How does it get out of this corner and boxed-in situation about austerity?
Yeah, I wish I had an easy answer on that, because it kind of comes up at every corner, whether it's talking about the debt ceiling or it's talking about sequestration. I mean, each of those generally have this sort of, okay, how do we hold spending down? And we really need to turn that corner. I would urge people to start talking a lot more about a national flat tax or some sort of growth-oriented tax policy. So you throw a big one in here. That's, I think, really is the thing that we need to start inserting into the discussion, is a big deal, not these sort of incremental how do we cut here and nip there to be able to make things work.
Hey, Governor, am I missing something about the sequester? In the smartest corporations in the world, when they have to cut back, that's how they do it. They pick a tiny percentage and tell each department to cut by their percentage. Great corporations have done that. It's very successful.
Yeah, but that's not managing for as far as, if you're just saying, okay, let's cut everything. For instance, in Kansas, we increased in some places. We put more money in technical education, while at the same time we eliminated some function in government. I mean, I think government has to be smart about this, and I think we have to be willing to take on that level of political fight, saying, you know what, we need more technical training in the United States, and we clearly do. But we also don't need to do function X, Y, and Z. And yes, there are people that still want this to be funded, but it's not yielding what we need to do now. I think really we're at a point in time where government needs to start doing that instead of this across-the-board stuff.
Governor, last one on this. Look, in terms of the popular vote for president, the Republicans have lost 3 of the last 4 elections. All right, Bush lost the popular vote in 2000. He won it in 2004, and then we have Obama and Obama. How does the GOP get back on track? How does the Republican Party become a serious presidential party again?
You know, I think we're discovering it across the states, and I think if you look at a number of different Republican governors, what they're doing, it isn't that government is all bad, but government has to do certain functions. It has to manage it better. We've got to get in a growth mode. And I think you're discovering that model in places like Ohio or Kansas or Louisiana, Michigan, Iowa, Texas. I really think we're starting to come up with that. But, Larry, I don't know that the formula is all there yet. We've got to, I think, look around for a while and see what that formula comes out to be. But I think you're starting to see it emerge from some of these Republican governors across the country.
All right, the red state model. Governor Sam Brownback of Kansas. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Up next.